Hey guys, so today we are going to go over the new 1-to-4 family contract. So that way we get the new one and we aren't using the old one anymore. So the biggest difference on the 1-to-4 family contract is when we go down to leases, you'll see this on number 4. And then when we come down to number 5 is going to be the biggest difference. So let's kind of deep dive into this. So on line 1, for the parties of the contract, you put the seller's name. Let's just call him Joe Bob. On the buyer's name, I'm going to put myself and my husband. Make sure that if it is a married person that you are in fact putting the husband and the wife. That's super important. If the house is in an LLC, make sure that you're putting it in the LLC's name, or if it's in a trust that you're putting the trust name because that's important. On number 2, lot block, the legal description exactly as you see it on the tax profile report. Very important to make sure that that's all on there for legal reasons. If it doesn't have a block, some in Crystal Beach don't, some in the country don't, you leave that blank. The same thing with a lot. If there isn't something on the description that actually says lot and block, do not just make up a number to put it in here. City, you're going to put the city, you're going to put the county that the property is in, not your county, and then you're going to put the whole property address on the last line. And when I say whole property address, I mean the address name, the city, the state, and the zip code, not just the street name. Exclusions on line D would be if the seller is keeping a chandelier or something that is built into the home. They're taking that water softener, anything like that would go on exclusions. Let's say they're going to take the water softener. We would put that there. On line 3, you have the cash portion of the sale. You have the actual financing amount. You add those two together and then you automatically, it automates for you the sales price. On line 4, this is if there are any residential leases that are attached to the property. Fixture leases, exact same thing. Natural resource leases, if you were buying something like land and they had a mineral lease or anything like that would go here. Under here on line C, they also have, you have to obtain a copy of all the natural resource leases if they do actually have one and how much time that the seller has to provide that. This is the most important thing that has changed in our legal 1 and 2 is section 5. On here, section 5A, we are not putting the escrow agent's name on the contract any further. So let's say we want to use Denise Garcia, and that's fine. We'll send the contract to them, but we would put capital title. They kind of deep dive into this a little bit more in legal 1 and 2, but basically if you're assigning this to the escrow agent, not the title company, if their escrow agent were to leave, they could technically take it with them. And if the title company's already done all the work, it just leaves a really sticky mess legally. So we want to make sure you are not putting the escrow agent anymore on 5A. It's always the title company. Make sure that you are using the right address to the title company. Here, earnest money, at least 1% is customary, but of course that's negotiable. And then you have the amount for option fee. Unless they're putting additional money on the contract, you are not going to fill out line 1. Termination option, 7 days, 10 days, whatever it is that you're agreeing on is there. And then if we go a little bit farther down on 6A is where you would write the title company. If we go down a little bit farther, will not be amended for the survey, or it will, and who's actually going to be the one to purchase those. If we keep going down here, sorry, title policy, not survey. If we go down to survey, it tells us how many days that the seller has to give my buyer the survey. And if this is a big if, they produce the survey and I, as the buyer, my lender will not accept that. Then down here where it says seller or buyer's expense, that is if only the seller has actually produced a survey and our lender is not letting us use it, that is when somebody else will have to pay. If you have this box clicked here for C1 and the seller never gives you a survey, then it automatically is going to go down to whoever it is that you have clicked here. If you have to obtain a new survey. So be very, very, very careful on that. If you're working on the sell side and you have a certain amount of days to send the survey, you have to send the survey within that amount of days, because if they have seller's box clicked, then the seller is going to be the one that's paying for it. Line 2 and then 3, objections, if any. Put residential use or whatever you're wanting to put on there. If it is or is not in an HOA, a lot of this stuff on this contract is the same as the previous one, but there is a lot of stuff that's a little bit different. Property condition. This is a seller's disclosure. If you have already received it or it was on the MLS, you want to make sure to click box B1. If you have not obtained the survey and you want it within your option period of time, I usually use 3 days. You put the days here. Remember, if you're working with a buyer and the seller's agent does not give you the seller's disclosure, let's say they don't even give you the seller's disclosure within 5 days. Yes, you could terminate the contract at any time. Let's say they give you the seller's disclosure and it's 6 days after the executed contract. Your buyers get a little bit cold feet after their 7-day option period is over. Here's a little tricky bit of this seller's disclosure. It says right here, if the seller delivers a notice, buyer may terminate the contract for any reason within 7 days after the buyer has received the notice prior to closing, which means if they delivered the seller's disclosure 6 days after the executed contract, I then have 7 days after that to terminate if I want to. It's a big thing where a lot of agents really kind of get sucked into that stuff. So make sure that you guys are reading that. If you guys are working with a seller, you guys have that seller's disclosure before you even have an executed contract, and make sure that the agent is actually clicking the correct box. If you did give the seller's disclosure, don't let them mark box 2. Make sure that they're marking box 1. Down here, this is another tricky one where people don't always pay attention to it. I have written under section D2 where I've put that a tree had to get cut down and ground down before close, and the agent on the selling side didn't pay attention to it. We got a week before close and I went to go check. The tree was not cut down and it was not ground down, and the agent did not pay attention, which then in turn means that her client was a little bit peeved off because they obviously had to then pay to cut down a tree and grind it down. So make sure that you guys are paying attention to this if there's something there, and if not, that you guys are clicking that they're accepting the property as is. Under 7H is a residential service contract. If you guys are not getting one and your clients refuse to get one, I need to have that in writing. No matter what, we have to have in writing that they are waiving that. It can come back to bite you in the butt. So let's make sure that that doesn't happen. So if they are putting a 0, they don't want it, I want that in writing. 8A, this is any kind of things that we need to put. If it's a spouse, a parent, a child, anything that's related in the business, you need to put here. Even if it's something where you're like, well, it's a cousin and I might have to put that, just go ahead and put it. It's not going to hurt you to put that in the contract. Closing. Here is our day. So we have to put the day and the year. Make sure that these are both correct. And then also the other thing on this, a lot of people get a little bit mixed up, but it says the closing of the sale will be on or before or within 7 days after objections made under paragraph 6D have been cured or waived, whichever is later. So let's say you guys have a little bit of a tiff that's going on. There's some things that haven't been done. This closing could actually legally get pushed back for 7 days without much recourse. So make sure that you guys are prepared for that. If it does happen, you guys are marking your T's and dotting your I's so that way your client knows that that is a possibility. It could most definitely happen. And unfortunately in real estate, things do happen. Under 10A, you're going to put when the buyers get possession. Let's say there is a lease back. The lease back, you will click according to a temporary lease. If it's actually on closing, you get the keys then, everything's done, you've done your final walkthrough, that's when you would click there. Special provisions. I know we talk about this in school all the time. I know we all know it's a no-no to write anything there. If it is business related, that's factual statements in the contract, you can write them. If you're doing something like they want to use this just happened. So they want to use a parking lot across from this property so many times a month. That's not a factual business detail. It has nothing to do with us. It needs to get off. Unless you have something that is factual and it's business details, you do not put anything in this box. Under 12B, sorry, this is any concessions. So anything that you are asking for the seller to pay for buyer's closing costs would go in this section. Let's keep going down. Please make sure on 21 notices that you are writing the buyer's at least phone number and email, please. It makes it a lot easier for the title company to know what's going on and be able to contact them for any papers that they need. So please make sure that you put that information there. And also under 22, please make sure that you are marking every single addendum and amendment that you are sending. We need them all, including under other list. If there's a non-realty, put it in. Make sure to write non-realty. Last line, your buyer, seller signatures, everybody's signatures. On the executed time, whoever has the contract last, if it's the other agent, you tell them that it needs to be done. If it's you, you execute it and you send it back. We have to make sure that this is in every single contract in order for me to approve them going further in back agent. So make sure that you guys have that there. Here under broker information, this is something that kind of teaves me off when I get a contract that is missing things. If you're working on the buyer side, don't be lazy. Look up the other agent on Trek and get their information. On Trek, it will have their brokerage, it'll have their broker's license, it'll have their name, their license, their email, their phone number, and their broker's property address. Please make sure that you do that. Don't just leave it blank for the other agent to do it. It's just going to piss them off. I know it makes me kind of irritated, so make sure that you do that. Here, you put down your fee. Now this is really important. Make sure that whatever property that you guys are actually submitting an offer on, you guys are screenshotting the agent full report because that has the percentage of what you are getting. Let's say on the MLS it says 2%. You think that you're doing something a little bit sneaky and you're writing 3% on the contract here. Your commission is based off of what is shown on the MLS, not on this contract. This is just an information page. What if there is some kind of dilemma and people are arguing, they're going to go back to the MLS. There have been agents that have been sued where they write 3% on the MLS, they go back later before it gets executed and they drop it down to 2%. Well, if you have a screenshot that says 3% on the day that you show the property, you get 3% and you can fight it. This page right here is not a guarantee that you're going to get 3%, but it's always a good idea to write it on there. And this section, make sure that you get this from the title company that you're on. A couple other things on here that we need to make sure that you have on every single page should have the property address. If it does not, you need to make sure that you have that on there. Every single page should have the buyer and seller signature. If it's husband and wife, they should both be on there. Even if the wife is not on the loan, she will still be on the deed and she does still have to sign. So we want to make sure that we have all of those on there as well. So those are the main points of the new 1-to-4 contract. Again, you will know when you come down to this section on leases and this section on earnest money if you're on the right one. So make sure that this is the right one. It's Trek number 20-6. And if you guys have any questions, let me know. The date at the top should be 11/08/2021. Make sure that you are always using the most up-to-date contracts. Any questions, let me know.